Michiana Area Council of Government Policy Board. We've already taken our roll call, and so we can move on to the minutes for April 14th. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? And if not, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from April 14th. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Minutes for April 14th.
Aye.
And opposed, signify vocally. And that passes. Thank you. We don't have any chairman reports today, but just make a comment that we just went through our audit exit conference. 45 minutes of riveting information, but I think it's easy to say after sitting in the conference that the staff here and James and his team are doing an excellent job as always. And we're fully expecting not to have any findings on this audit. So I applaud you for your work and thank you for your time. We'll go ahead and move into Debbie's financial report.
Thank you, Mayor. You should all have the March 2021 financial report in your packet. Our fiscal year-to-date expenses through the month of March was $4,074,801.72. Our cash balance at the end of March was $2,288,550.71. And our cash disbursements for the month of March was $360,975.01. Are there any questions? If not, I'd like to ask for board approval of the March 2021 financial report.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Mayor Rod.
We have a motion and a second to approve the March financial reports. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you. Move on to the secretary's report.
Excuse me, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Are you accepting votes from us that are online or?
Yes, that's why we're doing the raise your hand so that we can see the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know if this was physical participation or both virtual and physical.
Yeah, it's both virtual and physical, but definitely encourage everybody to keep considering coming back to these meetings. I think it'll be easier if we're in person and easier to start making those connections between all our groups again too. So,
additionally, just to the question, Mayor, we have been in discussions with legal counsel. Jamie Woods had gotten me information related to the new state statutes related to virtual meetings, and we will be working on developing policies moving forward related to how we would comply with the future virtual meeting standards. So we will be offering that, but there will be, because of that statute, kind of requirements on certain degrees of attendance and how we would have to do roll call votes and future voting. So that is a policy that we'll be developing and hopefully be presenting in the June timeframe.
Great, thanks. We have to do the same thing locally.
you know, and I actually might make a suggestion since we're both in the room and Zoom. If we could just leave it that the people in the room make the motions in seconds, and we won't have to deal with those delays. And so we'll just make sure whoever's here does that, and then if everybody at home could vote, that'd be great.
Thanks.
All right, Secretary's report. Did we have anything?
Other than just a few modifications there, look in your packet. Looks like there's 3 of them there for this month.
Thank you, Carrie. Any questions on the modifications? I forget, do we accept those?
Yeah, there's no action needed.
Okay.
The administrative modifications, the board many years ago gave staff approval to make minor changes to the transportation improvement program between board meetings. So there's no action. However, we provide a listing every month to the board of what those changes were, and then those are posted publicly as well. So no action is needed. It's more just informative.
Thank you, James. That takes us to our old business, which I don't believe we have any today, so move right into new business.
Hi, good morning. We have two items for new business under Resolution 2421. Both of these are in Elkhart County. The first item, item A, is the addition of a project, which is a bridge replacement on County Road 36 in Elkhart County. This is the addition of all three phases into the tip. Does anybody have any questions I can answer on item A? Okay, moving into item B, this is another roll call project that has been in process for some time. This is a increase of funds by almost $750,000. This is County Road 40 from State Road 19 to County Road 17. If there are no questions, I'd ask for your approval on
County
these.
Road 7, I believe, right?
7, yes, I said 17, thank you.
Correct.
So yes, if there's no other questions, I'd ask for your approval on Resolution 2421.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2421. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Deb Fleming, and I could not get on my iPad again, so I'm on my phone, so you can't see me, but maybe you can hear me, so let
We
me know
can.
what I can say yes. I'm so disappointed that for some reason, the situation, I can't get on my iPad to get on there. It's like, wouldn't let me on. Anyway, so I had to get on my phone. I'm sorry I'm late because I was trying to get on my iPad. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Dr. Fleming. We can hear you. And I'm sorry that it didn't work virtually, but if it works in the future, we do offer the in-person option as well.
Yeah, right. And I'll try to see if I can fix it. Anyway, I'm sorry to take it on the side, but I was just so disappointed. I wanted to see everybody and be on there. And, my iPad. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I approve Resolution 2421. Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll just assume your vote is yes unless you vote negatively when we call for that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
All right, so our next agenda item, each year, we like to do a recap of kind of the annual impact of the organization, what we accomplished in the previous calendar year. 2020 is a year that many may not look back with fondness, but it is a year that I will look back and be amazed at the way our staff approached the year with grace and innovation. So today we are going to kind of celebrate what those accomplishments were in 2020. You'll hear from various program staff about the accomplishments that we did see. But we have kind of presented, and you will hear as we move forward, the theme of the year is the one with the pivots. Much of 2020 for some, it may have been a lost year, but I am proud in which the way staff approached the year and chose not to necessarily let everything fall by the wayside, but decided to pivot, and we approached things in a different fashion than what we had intended for 2020. So you'll hear from them on what those impacts look like, what those funds raised from outside resources look like, and kind of things that we decided to do differently and really learn from the year. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff to kind of go through what 2020 looked like.
Good morning. So fortunately, the wheels kept turning, and that was true with the work that we do in transportation. Many of our technical services and support for your projects and funding or applications for funding were able to continue through last year. There were a variety of funding opportunities in 2020, including MACOG's call for projects for the urbanized area, as well as NDOT's notice of funding for rural area projects. and the Community Crossings Matching Grant Program for preservation projects. And through these opportunities, over 51 million was able to be awarded, continuing the much needed investment in our transportation network. Even though a lot of our work turns virtual and we had to coordinate online and by phone, we were still out and about throughout the community. We were rating pavement conditions to support asset management plans, as well as conducting traffic and turning movement counts to support traffic studies and further technical assistance. So over the past several years, our traffic count program has expanded the number of locations that we've been able to capture with video, and for last year, they accounted for over 2/3 of the counts that we did. So we still had to adjust some of our transportation work, which Elena is going to talk about, including some of the impacts in active transportation.
Good morning. As Caitlin mentioned, we had to make a few changes to our active transportation program. We had started off 2020 with the exciting prospect of hosting a league cycling instructor seminar, which would train up to 9 people on the best ways to teach bicycle safety, and that would have allowed us to go into the communities and reach a bunch of people and teach them and host bicycle safety classes. That had to quickly change, but we were still able to reach 180 school-age children through a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. And so it wasn't how we planned it to be, but it still turned out great. And now we're looking forward to our seminar coming up soon in 2021. We also noticed a positive impact on the popularity of active transportation. We have trail counters out in the area, and the counter that we have on the LaSalle Trail has showed 14,630 users in August of 2020, and that's a comparison to 6,036 in August of 2019. So now you'll be hearing from Transit.
Thank you, Elena. For the interurban trolley, we began with high aspirations, and after 2019's ridership was the highest in 5 years, we were thinking about looking at expansion, particularly in the city of Goshen. In March 2019, as COVID-19 arrived in the region, we completely pivoted our focus to focusing on transit's role as an essential service to get community members to all the essential places they needed to go as the region and country went on lockdowns. To promote social distancing, we began requiring rear door boarding and waived fares. Fares were not reinstated until this past February of 2021, after permanent driver barriers were installed on the trolley. These barriers will promote driver safety even after pandemic social distancing requirements subside. We, through an infusion of 100% federal CARES Act money, were able to order 4,000 disposable masks and other forms of PPE to help promote safety on the trolley. We also distributed reusable masks to both trolley drivers and trolley riders. In addition, as local, federal, and state regulations change, we pivoted from recommending passengers wear face coverings to requiring them, and will continue to require face masks until at least September 2021, based on the current Federal Transit Administration and Transit Security Administration federal directives. In fall of 2020, as we got into the new rhythm of managing an essential transit service in the time of COVID, we returned to looking at expanding trolley service in Goshen with the Goshen Transit Survey. This survey saw over 240 respondents list their proposed destinations and needs for transit service in the city of Goshen. Now I will turn it over to Tiara to go through the ridership numbers.
Yes, good morning. So yeah, for the 2020, the interurban trolley fixed route service had a total of over 380,000 passenger boardings, with the interurban trolley access service providing over 28,800 trips. So overall, total ridership for the system was down about 13% compared to 2019's totals, and that was partly due to the COVID impact on our service. However, I will note that after various discussions with other local transit agencies in the region, trolley ridership did remain higher than most, despite ridership on a national level being down about 60%. So that was really good to see. And if you look at the chart there, you can see where ridership plummeted after the onset of COVID-19 back in mid-March of 2020. But then you'll also see that there was an increase in ridership levels between the months of April to July. And this came shortly after Transpo, who jointly operates the Interurban Trolley's Yellow Line, announced they would be reducing their weekday service and then running on a Saturday schedule about 6 days per week, just due to the impacts that COVID-19 was having on their service at that time. And so in order for us to keep the Yellow Line running efficiently, we extended the route from the Mishawaka Transfer Center to the South Street Station in downtown South Bend. So we were now running from downtown Elkhart all the way to downtown South Bend. And that extension, we believe, played a part in the increase in ridership for those 3 months. And then moving on into the months of August through October, this is after Stage 5 was implemented and things began to open back up. We did begin to see ridership return to a normal level, similar to those that were reported back in 2019. So things were getting back to somewhat normal. And then leading into the final months of 2020, there's holidays coming, and then the spike of COVID numbers hit that brought forth more restrictions and caused ridership once again to take another dip. So overall, ridership for 2020 had its ups and downs, like a little roller coaster, which I believe most people can relate to in terms of COVID and everything. But we are bouncing back slowly in 2021 and just looking to get back to those main normal levels of ridership and just see what we can do, go from there. So next we'll have more information for sustainability.
Yes, so in our sustainability program area, we continued to work on our core program areas of clean air, clean transportation, clean energy, call it brownfields, could call it clean land, and Matt will talk a little bit about clean water later on. So in the brownfields area, we made some major investments into environmental assessments, spending over $380,000 on those. We pivoted to having virtual community engagement instead of our in-person workshops, and we had over 70 people join 3 different virtual meetings as we shifted our plans back a little bit, but still were able to accomplish what we set out to do. In the clean transportation realm, we were, along with South Shore Clean Cities, we assisted in awarding $1.5 million to local government fleets primarily. That included CNG refuse trucks, CNG transit buses to Transpo, as well as propane school buses to Wani, and a few other projects as well. So that was great to see that come primarily from Volkswagen-related grant funding sources, but a few others as well. And then in the clean energy realm, St. Joseph County was the 7th community to become Soul Smart designated, earning gold designation and special recognition for their pollinator-friendly solar leadership as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt to talk a little bit more about the River Basin Commission.
Thanks, Leah. As some of you know, MACOG provides a staffing solution for the St. Joe River Basin Commission and has since it was created in the 1980s. Our service area is actually, quite a bit bigger than MACOG region, but I like to think that a lot of the work that we do in the counties upstream have a direct impact in our communities here in the MACOG region. So with regards to a staffing solution, some of the things that happened in 2020 we're bringing on some additional support. We had 2 interns that joined me in the fall. They helped do some work in our upstream communities, namely in LaGrange and Noble County on the north branch of the Elkhart River, which included installing some new stream gauges and a study that we did of the flooding issues that are occurring up there, which is really important for our friends there in Goshen. Who actually, I would say on a pivot year, we didn't have to deal with flooding this year, which was kind of nice. I'd like to take credit for that, but I don't think I can. In other county, LaGrange, we also did a lot of work with the county surveyor over there, trying to create an incentive for conservation and water storage on private lands through the apportionment process on their county regulated drains. And then the last project that I want to highlight did bring it home to the basin a little more directly. We worked with 6 different communities on assessing their urban tree canopy to try to identify where some additional trees could have the most potential impact on stormwater uptake, which not only improves water quality, reduces flooding, but also can help offset the cost of some of our stormwater infrastructure. So within the MACOG region, we just did a tree planting over in Middlebury just last 2 weekends ago. And we'll have one coming up down in the town of Syracuse later this fall, likely. So we had some good projects going despite some hurdles initially. With that, I think I'll turn it back to Zach, I think it is.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So for community development, we had also a pretty big year. With the CARES Act, there was funding available for economic development districts to expand our capacity to help local communities as well as plan for a more resilient economy. So we received $400,000 from EDA to help build that. That allowed us to add a new staff member to our community development team. Brett Roberts, which many of you may have met already. He's been working with us since the winter of 2020. So we also were active in community plans. So we were developing 2 comprehensive plans, finishing up one for Middlebury and working through one in Bristol. And we actually, at the end of the year, began one in the town of Wakarusa. And we also helped Bristol complete their first parks master plan as well, and completed a parking study in Winona Lake. So we had a lot of active plans in place. When worked in with Bristol with public surveys, we had 250 surveys submitted for their comprehensive plan, which we were really great to see the activity happening there in Bristol. And then the last update is we had been partnering with Kosciuszko County to help them create a multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for the county as well as the towns throughout Kosciuszko County called Forward Kosciuszko. So that an activity that kind of began towards the end of 2020 and is continuing through this year into 2022. So we're really excited again to get out and help these communities this last year, and excited to see things that happen this year. Next, we're going to go to our administration and communication. So to start off, last year, or every 4 years, we have to do a certification review with the Federal Highway on our transportation planning process. And 2020 was that year for us. So this all had to shift, of course, online and do virtual visits, and we did virtual public meetings and stakeholder meetings. We were happy to get the report back and show that we had 6 accommodations, 10 some small recommendations, but no corrective action. So they were really pleased with our work here in Northern Indiana, and actually our review was a pilot for them to do this all virtual. So it was really a interesting experience. And as I mentioned, we also added the new staff member, Brett Roberts, to our team this last year. A great addition there. And then each year we like to celebrate our years of service and of our staff members, and thank everyone for all the time and commitment they commit to our region, particularly highlighting 2 milestone years. So Donnie Ritzma had 5 years of service, and then Carla had 10 years of service this last year. So again, we appreciate all our staff members for that. I'm going to turn things over to Katie to talk a little bit more about our social media and communications.
Thanks. So it was very important to keep active on social media in 2020. We began the MACOG Facebook page in 2018, and it has been consistently growing ever since. We previously had a LinkedIn account, but began posting regularly in 2020. And with that, we grew our social media by 30%. Along with Facebook and LinkedIn, we also began using our MACOG YouTube page. We had to adapt the way we reached the public during our TTAC and policy board meetings, so we began live streaming the meetings from there. And then another way we engage and communicate with the public is through our newsletter, the MACOG Gazette. This newsletter previously was printed and mailed out quarterly, but we had to rethink it, and in 2020 we pivoted to a bi-weekly digital newsletter that is emailed to subscribers as well as posted on our MACOG website. So with this change, we're able to communicate more information more regularly and at less of a cost as well. And now I'll turn it over to James.
So last but not least, 2020 was supposed to be a pretty celebratory year because MACOG as an organization turned 50 years old. We had a number of events and things planned, but unfortunately, because we weren't able to meet in person for much of 2020, we weren't able to do that celebration in person. But we did think it was important to celebrate our history as an organization and where we've been over the last 50 years. So a lot of that information was shared each week on social media. So if you didn't get a chance to take a look at that, you can revel in a little bit of history of the organization on social media. But I think it's an important reflection point where we were last year to think about how this organization was created 50 years ago to serve local governments and address regional issues, and we continue to do that today, and that our local governments continue to still see the value in our organization. And so we look forward to celebrating at least another 50 years in the future. At this point, I do want to take a minute to say thank you to all of our staff. Last year was, putting it lightly, a challenging year for many. And the way that you all approached the year and adapted and continued to move things forward was noticed, appreciated, and impactful. If you didn't add up, just in the sense of the resources that the organization was able to help with the region, by estimation, because we only highlighted certain things, but by estimation, it was just shy of about $60 million of outside resources from typically federal partners that were brought in. And let alone the impacts to communities on their plans and their visions for the futures. You all, as staff, had a great impact on the region, and you kept things moving forward. So thank you. It was greatly appreciated. And I know it was a challenging year, but definitely looking forward to 2021 and beyond. So with that, that was kind of a highlight of where we were through 2020. If there are any questions, we could take any questions now. Otherwise, we would move on to our next item of business. So there being no questions, our next item of business, we have two folks with us here today. We have Regina Emberton with the South Bend Elkhart Regional Partnership. Many of you should know her. As well as then we have Pete McCown, wearing many hats, but today officially wearing a hat with the Regional Development Authority. They're here to have a discussion with the board and kind of provide some information about the recently created Regional Economic Acceleration Development Initiative, or further referred to as READY. So I'll turn it over to Regina to open this topic.
Thank you all for having us here today. I'm going to talk for a couple of minutes just to level set about what we understand the READY program to be from the information that the state of Indiana has released to date. And then Pete McCown will talk more about our region's approach, and we hope that this is a discussion. I want to start by reflecting just for a minute on the Regional Cities Initiative that all of us came together as a region back in 2015 to apply for and successfully win. We, with the support of the local elected officials forming the Regional Development Authority, and with stakeholders from the private sector, the philanthropic, all across the board, our higher education came together, and we've been able to support 30 projects in a small way by seed funding for those across the region, from arts and culture to recreation to trails to housing. And I think everyone in our region should be really proud of how we approached that $42 million grant from the state and how it leveraged so much additional funding and how it was the catalyst for regional collaboration and growth that's happened since that point. We were really lobbying at the state level for a Regional Cities 2.0, and we saw the impact on talent attraction, on the increase in vibrancy and amenities across our region, and we knew that there was a good story to tell. We were really pleased to see that the state initiated the READY grant this year and has funded that with a $500 million state appropriation for that. That $500 million, the mission, as the states mentioned, is to promote strategic investments that will make Indiana a magnet for talent and for economic development. And while we've had a lot of growth, we have a lot of room to grow. And so this could be really impactful for the South Bend Elkhart region and the 47 communities that make that up. And the way that the program is laid out is that regions across the state can come together. It would be counties that are 2 counties or more coming together that could apply for up to $50 million of state funding that would come into the region. They came out with some initial information just last Monday, and the timeline for how the program would work is very rapid. So regions need to identify themselves to the IEDC, who will be administering this for the state, by July 1st. So basically a notice of intent to the state of defining what our region looks like and the entity that would be submitting an application for READY grant funding. Those applications would be due to the state by the end of August. And so there would obviously need to be a large process for public engagement that would happen over the summer. The format for submitting an application would be by updating our regional economic development strategy. So in the state guidelines that have been put out, they've noted that the regions who already have a regional development plan should use that as a base and think big and update that in order to submit that application by the end of August. A little bit different from the Regional Cities Initiative, not only could it fund brick and mortar quality of life and quality of place projects, it could also look at larger programmatic initiatives across the region. And so I think that we have an opportunity to look at the areas of education and workforce and talent attraction and retention and industry growth and entrepreneurship and innovation and think about what our region could invest in moving forward. As far as the program guidelines, in addition to the format of the regional development plan, I think one thing of note, especially to this audience, is that similar to regional cities, it does require a one-to-one match by the local public sector. So for the $50 million or up to $50 million that our region would be eligible to apply for and secure, that would need to be matched by aligned investment from the local public sector. It also recommends a 3-to-1 match from the private sector. So again, trying to use this as seed money to really leverage aligned collaborative efforts from both the public sector and the private sector. I think that's in general the guidelines as we understand them today. I mentioned the timeline. We have put together, from the regional partnerships perspective, a landing page, and we'll be sure to send out that link. It's called Get Ready South Bend Elkhart Region, and on that we are putting links to information. There's a form where individuals, anyone from the public, can sign up to be informed as this process will evolve throughout the course of the rest of the year. And so again, just recognizing that generating awareness and making sure that it's a very inclusive project for all of the communities across the South Bend Elkhart region is critical. So that's kind of where we're at with what it is, and I'm going to invite Pete McCowan to come up and talk about where we're at with the regional approach so far and begin a discussion with you all to get your insight as well.
James, you're right, I am wearing many hats. I serve as the chair of the partnership board, serve as a member of the 5-member RDA, the Community Foundation of Elkhart County as an investor in the partnership and the work in the region. So I'm here kind of speaking on behalf of all 3 of those interests. We met yesterday jointly with the RDA and the partnership board. The RDA had met last week to consider our response and position as it related to the READY opportunity. In conversation with the partnership board, the RDA has volunteered itself to be the applicant, if you will. The partnership board has agreed to fully engage the 5 areas of focus and the committees and the architecture that we have built at the partnership to enhance, update, and expand the economic development plan that we have developed. We had considerable discussion yesterday and last week around the question of is the South Bend Elkhart region, as it is presently defined, the appropriate definition of our region? Is there an opportunity, or is there motivation to expand the definition of the region even more broadly. Given the extremely tight timeline and the existence of the current Regional Economic Development Plan and the working chemistry between the three counties and the leadership and stakeholders within those three counties, we are recommending that we stay the course with the region as defined by Marshall, St. Joe, and Elkhart County. We tend to take a big tent approach too. So we have our friends in southern Michigan that we interact with and support. We have our friends in Kosciuszko and LaPorte and LaGrange County that we include in any number of initiatives. But our best judgment at this point, given the quick turnaround and the existing definition of the region, is that we stay the course with the three-county definition. We also made a commitment, we've been working with James to essentially add an addendum to the relationship that MACOG has developed with Fourth Economy Consulting. Fourth Economy is the group that we used last time to help us develop our initial Regional Economic Development Plan and prepare the application for the Regional Cities Award. You have already contracted with them, so we have a second contract that is under consideration to complement the resiliency work that they are going to do on your behalf. I really see the RDA playing essentially a facilitating role, but we would like to have a steering committee that includes representative from MACOG, representative from the Chamber Coalition, representatives from the RDA and the Partnerships Executive Committee. That will be the steering group that will develop a timeline and provide feedback to the draft of the application as it is developed. But we see this being an open environment for participation and planning over the course of the next couple of months. We are not going to wait until July 1st to begin that planning work. We're going to begin as soon as possible so that we're ready August 31st to just submit the application by that deadline. I feel very optimistic, given the fact that this region has performed together for a period of time. We have an existing plan. There is this, essentially, there will be no fewer than 10 regions that will be awarded up to $50 million. There's $500 million, and you can, any particular region can only apply for 50 million. I'm highly optimistic that given our successes with regional cities and the LIFT network and the grant from the Lilly Endowment and the economic development planning and effort that we've put in will position us well with the IEDC in their decision making. Happy to answer any questions. Regina gave me some instructions, so I will answer any questions, but I also am instructed to report that the IEDC is planning a road show, some date here in the next month, essentially. June 17th is at least a preliminary date, tentative date. I would imagine that a broad show of support and attendance at that roadshow would benefit our region. So for all of us to use our networks to invite folks to join at that roadshow, it will carry weight with the IDC if there are 300 people present as opposed to 20.
Can you please repeat that date?
June 17th.
Yeah, and if everyone recalls, for a bit of historical note, during regional cities, the IEDC was originally going on a road show, and there was one scheduled in Northwest Indiana and one scheduled in Fort Wayne, but not originally scheduled in this region. And after some requests, one was held here, and it was actually the largest attended regional cities meeting across the entire state. And I think that did hold weight long-term with IEDC.
The other request would be, as we get to the stage of applicant, we would ask that MACOG would actually author a letter of support indicating that this has been a collaborative process across and between all the various bodies and entities as well. I can't imagine that there would be objection on that side of things.
Would it be helpful to have that from cities and counties as well?
I think we will organize some show of force, if you will.
Absolutely.
That was the first question I had. Based on kind of the IEDC guidance so far, it says that the cities, towns, and counties would designate the applicant is kind of what the cut sheet said. Have they indicated how they want that done? Or, is that something that needs to be passed by commissioners or council? Or is it just that the RDA has voted and that is something that then should move forward? How do we,
That's a good question.
as local governments, how do we show that support in the way that IEDC wants to see it?
Well, we would welcome an action by the policy board to endorse the definition of the region as the 3 counties for these purposes, and as the RDA as the sort of fiduciary agent to submit the applicant, be the entity to submit the application on behalf of that region. And our understanding is that we just need to provide a letter to the IEDC with notice of that intent and defining the region. So we could refer to the action of the policy board as well as the RDA as well as the regional partnership jointly in order to do that. Is the best information that we have at this point.
And what kind of timeline are you needing all that?
That has to be submitted by July 1st.
July 1st?
And I'd like to also back up, since we're talking about this now, would it be helpful, Jeremy or James, if the board made a motion to have a letter of support written from MACOG?
I guess that's why I was wondering too. We could either do that today or at our next meeting, and could write the letter ahead of time, obviously.
Yeah, if the board felt as though it was prudent after today's discussion, I think an action could be taken today. And entrusted to me to write that on the board's behalf, it could be circulated so that if there were any objections or anything like that, I could craft that letter if the board wanted and took action on that. Or I guess we could craft it and then present it at the June meeting. It's just then we're getting a little tighter on time. But I know the RDA has taken action that indicating that, and that the regional partnership yesterday kind of took action to support that as well. So I think it sequentially would make sense and could be done. The one thing I just want to point out and note, and this is not a positive or a negative, the region that MACOG identifies as our region, our service area, is fully inclusive of Kosciuszko County. And we know that, and we view this as one programmatic element, one kind of project. And in that project, the region is defined as a 3-county region. Much like when we work on the river basin technically in our MACOG region only serves St. Joe, Elkhart, and Kosciuszko, part of Kosciuszko County. So there are various programs that we have that aren't necessarily fully servicing 4 counties, but I do want Kosciuszko County and the communities to know that our commitment there and our focus will not change based on this one program. So that if we are defining in this letter for READY that the RDA is going to move forward with the 3-county region of St. Joe, Elkhart, and Marshall, that does not change anything else that MACOG does programmatically. So just it's an understood note, but I feel as though it's a very important note to make.
But James, they could apply in their own group
as
well. So and they're not excluded from it, they just don't fit within the perimeters of this.
Yeah, so Kosciuszko County, and not to speak on their behalf, but Deering Regional Cities, they joined the Northeastern RDA, which was out of Fort Wayne. And so there have been relationships formed over that time frame where most likely they would first look to that RDA to join that application if that moved forward.
Right.
They are always, in my opinion, they are always welcome. It's just a logistical matter of whether or not that makes sense for this approach with this time frame. But yeah, it's not an intentional exclusion.
James, Jeremy, quick question.
Yes, Mayor.
I don't know if this should go to Pete or Regina, but I think I heard them say that they would be looking for some representation from MACOG as it relates to a steering committee. I'm not quite sure what the function of that committee would be, and if indeed you would be looking for those to volunteer to serve on that, or how would that be structured?
It's at your discretion. My best thinking actually is that James has been actively involved with the partnership and has been alongside this for the whole time. And in my mind, if it's a steering committee, it's a steering committee that needs to be small enough and discreet enough to take action. There's a presentation that will be required, and there's a planning team to prepare that presentation and to read and edit drafts of the expanded plan and to develop protocols and criteria around this. So my recommendation or request would be that you actually appoint James to that role.
I'm not in person, but I'd like to make a motion, or at least a suggestion for maybe a motion that somebody on the in-person can make according to your request earlier, Jeremy. I would first like to make a motion to write a letter of support from MACOG to be circulated prior to our June meeting, so we can make sure that everything is in order and helpful for the application prior to the July 1 requested deadline. And then also for some discussion, I am also 100% comfortable having James as the liaison and representative to that committee. I agree that sometimes things get bogged down when they get too big. So those would be my two thoughts. I can formally make a motion if you'd like, but based on your request, I'm hoping someone in person picks it up.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Commissioner Wyrick, can I ask a clarification, just so
Yeah.
I understand process?
Mhm.
So for the letter, you're authorizing for me to write the letter, and then we will present it at the June
No.
9th meeting? Or that I would, and then it would be approved at the June 9th meeting, or that we would approve writing the letter, sending it, and just circulating it in advance of that June 9th meeting?
My preference would be that we would give you authority to write the letter as representative from the board, saying the board approves and supports Ready in the application and everything that's going on. So that would be my preference.
No, and I'm comfortable with either. I just wanted to make sure that I understood intent so that I didn't take an action that wasn't authorized on this.
Yeah, so I think the board supports in general, and you are the poet today. So
I'll second that motion that Susie made.
Correct. Correct.
I would ask that you make an addition to that content, which would be identifying and endorsing the RDA as the fiduciary entity on behalf of the region.
Okay, I'll make that motion as amended.
Okay, we have like 19 motions on the table, so we're going to go with this last one. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And opposed, please vote vocally. And that passes. Is there another motion to have James represent us on the steering committee?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to allow James to represent us on the steering committee for the RDA. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And those opposed, please signify voting vocally. And that also passes. Thank you. Appreciate your guys' time and all your work for us.
Thank you, Pete and Regina. We'll get you that here in the coming days. Thank you. Next, we'll move over to some staff updates, just to make sure that everyone's aware of, in case we haven't made you aware of grants already. We're going to make sure that you're aware of other grants as well, and then some statuses of plans and programs. So I'll turn it over to Leah.
Yes, so just a final reminder that the third and possibly final round of Volkswagen on-road and non-road grant funding, that application will be due June 1st. One of the major changes this final round is that diesel to new diesel projects are no longer eligible really in any category. So it would only be replacing diesel with CNG, propane, electric primarily. Along with that, I have an invitation to extend to the board from the South Bend Fire Department related to electric vehicles. There is a Rosenbauer electric fire truck that's on a national road show and stopping today. It'll be at the South Bend Fire Training Facility. That's 710 East Sample Street. Until 3 p.m. today, so if you wanted to check it out after this meeting, you're more than welcome to. It's mostly an electric truck, but it also comes with a diesel range extender that kicks on if need be, so it's not fully electric. So that's my additional update on that.
Want to make sure that the board is aware of a rebranding of a federal discretionary grant program, but then that grant program is available right now. So the new administration, as is now custom amongst administrations, has rebranded the Tiger program, or you may last remember it as BUILD. It's now RAISE. So the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE. So I guess now Tigers build raises. But so the new grant program, same as the old grant program, some different points of emphasis. This is a large discretionary pool of funds typically built for large projects. Maximum grant award is up to $25 million. So there's no more than 100 million or so that's awarded to singular states. So this is something that involves coordinating with the DOT. And if your community is looking to apply for RAISE under state statute and State Board of Accounts guidance and through the DOT, there is a process to indicate, I believe it's to IFA, that you're applying so that you pre-warn of any additional transportation dollars that are coming to the state. So if you are looking to apply to the RAISE discretionary grant program, this is a fiercely competitive national program, highly subscribed to. Projects that have been funded in the past are of usually very large scopes, but there are some set-asides for small urban and rural areas. But if you have any interest in that, if you have potential projects for that, please be in contact with our staff. We can walk you through what that looks like and let you be aware of kind of the new emphasis areas. We've done a lot of work in the past on Tiger and Build, have not yet been successful. So we look to future opportunities, though, to assist communities if you are looking to apply. So wanted to make sure that you're aware. That is due July 12th. Next, I'll turn it back to Leah just to kind of do a summary of the Partners for Clean Air program.
Yes, so for those of you who are not in attendance at our virtual event this year, we did announce 4 Partners for Clean Air Award winners, one of which in the room. So we had City of Goshen, recognizing them for leadership in both clean transportation as well as overall environmental resilience and creating a new department under that name. So we congratulate them for that sustained effort over many years. We also had John Glenn Community School Corporation, which was recognized for energy conservation and clean energy with a solar field and some energy efficiency upgrades. We had the University of Notre Dame recognized for very significant clean energy investments, the hydroelectric plant in partnership with City of South Bend, and then being a critical partner in the St. Joseph Solar Farm by Indiana Michigan Power. And our 4th awardee was Recycling Works, Inc. for innovating and kind of navigating some of the challenges in the broader recycling market to improve recycling capture rates and decrease some of the residual that goes to landfills in partnership with Brightmark, which captures hard-to-recycle plastics and turns that into a low-sulfur diesel fuel. So those were our 4 award winners and all really great projects this year.
You know, the past several policy boards, we've been giving you an update on the RFP process for the Regional Freight Mobility Plan. We finalized that plan this past month and have selected HDR to kind of guide the planning process along with TSW, who's going to be doing some of the stakeholder engagement. This will be an 18-month planning process, attempting to study the existing freight movement in our region and also establishing priorities and strategies for our transportation investment in the future to kind of further job creation and economic growth. And so as part of that, one of the first things we'll be doing is forming a freight study team. And we'll be looking for members of Policy Board and TTAC, along with other economic development partners and local businesses to be a part of that team. So if you have an interest, please let us know. Otherwise, we might be reaching out to a few of you to see of your willingness to participate.
MACOG is excited to be hosting the Crossway Trails Month. We had received some funding from the NIPSCO Environmental Action Grant to be able to host a month-long celebration of our trails and active transportation as a whole. This will be in the month of July. We'll have a couple different activities, including a scavenger hunt on trails throughout the region and an a mileage challenge. The funding will also allow us to purchase some Crossway Trail signs for the region to be able to get that branding out there. And so we'll have more details as we get closer to July, but just wanted to get that out there now.
That concludes our staff update for this month.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, we'll move into our privilege of the floor. Is there anybody wish to bring something to the board that was not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to public comment. And did we have any submitted?
There were no public comments submitted in advance of this meeting.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And opposed, vote vocally. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.